Hi, I'm Marg. Welcome to Cheshire's Libraries, a book I love. And the book I've decided to review today is by one of my very favourite authors, Haig, and it's his most recent book, The Midnight Library, which was published in August this year. The reason I was so excited to read this book was it deals, amongst other things, with a very fascinating subject, which is kind of like life outcomes and alternative life outcomes. So it's how life might have turned out had you taken one or two or several different decisions way back down the track. How would life look now? How would it have turned out? Who would you be with? What would you be doing? And the Midnight Library in this book is essentially a library of second chances. So our main character, who we meet at the beginning, Nora Seed, gets to look around this library, and we realise that each of the individual books on the shelves will represent some aspect of her life, how it could have turned out, one version of it had she made a different decision. And she's guided around this library by a very kindly elderly librarian called Mrs. Elm, who is the other main character in the book. Now, Haig doesn't shy away from big life issues and mental health issues in particular, and a lot of his non-fiction and fiction writing kind of focuses on this subject, and his writing is always very positive and redemptive and helpful without being trite, and he writes from a position of experience which he's very open about. So when we meet Nora, the main character at the beginning of this book, she is full of regrets. She is at the end of her tether, really. She's at the lowest point of her life. Relationships, jobs, things have gone wrong, and she's just feeling hopeless, and she actually decides to end her life. So this is where Nora arrives at the Midnight Library. We realise it's somewhere between life and death, and it's a chance where Nora is going to get to try on all those lives that she's regretted not living in search of the perfect life, if it exists. So like many of Haig's books, the chapters are deliciously short and it's a very easy read. Most of the chapters are therefore a little sort of snapshot of the versions of Nora's life, and they range from just ordinary, everyday things that she has chosen not to do and lives that she's chosen not to lead, to the more fantastic. So she could have perhaps been an Olympic swimmer or a rock star, and so on. As you can probably guess though, life doesn't always turn out as you imagine. So we watch how each of these lives unfurl. And ultimately, before her time in the Midnight Library is up, Nora is faced with a decision, which is what is the best way to live. I really enjoyed this book because it's a mixture of the ordinary and the fantastical. And it's a really enjoyable ride whilst asking some very big questions. And as usual, Haig offers some really life-affirming and thoughtful and uplifting responses to these questions. I think it's a very helpful and apt book to read in the times that we're living in. So if you read it, I hope you enjoy it, and please join us again for another book I love.